that we have not seen the uplifting of type 4, specifically 4C hair, as we should have, if that's what the whole movement was created to do. Or if we were creating this whole movement to deconstruct Eurocentric standards of beauty, only to go ahead and reinforce those. Points were definitely made in that regard. The reason we saw type 3 hair being cemented and solidified as the standard for the natural hair community and for the natural hair movement was not because of people, it was because of brands, companies, and corporations. And I need us to acknowledge that when we are speaking of the natural hair movement, which are really groups of Black women. So I need us to acknowledge some of these things when we're speaking on Black women and speaking down on Black women who pioneered this movement. I know for a fact that in 2009, I could walk into any drugstore and not find a single product that was dedicated to natural hair. Now, we always had the products that were on the shelves for Black hair specifically, like pink lotion, like the Blue Magic. Those have always been on the shelves, and yes, we absolutely have used these on our natural hair before. But these products that were targeted towards natural hair, like leave-in conditioners, like the curl smoothies and the coil custards, those products did not exist. I'm telling you, as a 14-year-old who walked into the Walmarts, the Walgreens, the CVS's, looking for products for my natural hair, and I could find nothing. Even though the natural hair movement had already gained traction, companies very intentionally ignored this new movement. They were hoping it was a trend. They were hoping it was a fad that was going to die out very soon, because if they go natural, who's going to buy our relaxers? They finally gave in to the fact that their relaxers weren't selling off the shelves like they were in the past. So they said, oh shoot, we need to still be able to make money off of Black women, especially the Black women who have billion-dollar buying power. The closest possible thing you could get to a Eurocentric standard of beauty, but make it natural hair. Because corporations said, if we're gonna make money off of you, we're still going to create a standard that is unattainable, and it needs to be unattainable because we have to figure out a way to make you keep buying our products. That's marketing 101. If I can get your product and automatically get what I need to get, that's a one-time purchase. But if I create an unattainable standard of beauty, then you're going to continue buying in the hopes that your hair will one day look like hers. So I want us to acknowledge capitalism is what failed us.
We also see the problems with the over excessive need to have curls always defined in order for it to look pretty and proper and acceptable in society, while draining your bank account along with it. My goodness, that's where the term product junkie comes from, because all the bloggers at one point in time on YouTube just kept on trying new products all the time on what could define their curls, what can make them have the best twist out, the best braid out, to the point where they would have a whole bunch of products in their room. And for what? For all the products to do the exact same thing. Most times they're buying it out of their own pockets. And even if they get sponsorship posts or different companies and brands are sending them all these things, they literally end up having rows and rows and rows of products doing the same thing. But let it be from someone who's watching the video and wants to try a new product and wants to have that defined curl. The products end up being $15 to $20 for a bottle that's less than 10 ounces. What are we finna do with that? Just a quick question. I'm just wondering, what am I supposed to do with a product that's less than 10 ounces, but it's literally $10 to $15? Yeah, I know. That's why I'm a lazy natural for a reason. And when I say lazy natural, I mean you gonna see my hair like after 3 months of it being in protective styles, and after a week, right back in braids. And this is what we looking like right now. If you saw my last video, that fro was out and it was looking nice, wasn't it? But my hair and I start to fight, so I gotta put it back away. And I got 4C, 4B hair. So, and that's another thing. Why is it that the minute my 4C, 4B hair now gets longer, it's no longer 4C hair? It's no longer 4B hair. I have looser textured hair because my hair is growing, and I've learn the method that works best for my hair. That's the thing. When it comes to hair typing, people tend to literally bark at you and get mad at you when you go ahead and type your own hair that comes out of your scalp, and the fact that it looks a certain way in a certain clip or a certain photo, all of a sudden it's no longer that hair texture. How does that make any sense?
Let's talk about the I want to talk about the texture police. The texture police are beyond annoying, and they're still around to this day, to this very day. Now, if you don't know what the texture police is, they're basically a group of people within the natural hair community who like to go around policing people about what their hair texture is and isn't. Say, for example, it could be a girl with 4A hair. They could go and they could wet their hair or like put gel on their hair to make it super defined. Their hair would be weighing down. Mind you, when their hair dries, it like curls up and goes into that 4A form. People will see it like when it's wet and when it's like still going through the drying process, and that person will say, oh my gosh, I have 4A. They'll be like, no you don't, girl, you got 3B, 3C. What are you doing trying to sit here and claim a hair texture and you aren't that hair texture? You're most definitely 3B, 3C. People do it all the time with people with type 4 hair, especially 4C hair. Now don't get me wrong, I get why there are some people who are just like, okay, not the texture police, but people who are within the natural hair movement or natural hair community and being like, okay, they're really heavy on people making sure they type in the correct category, because there tend to be some people with certain hair types who claim to have insert hair type here just to do it for views. People especially do it with 4C hair, and I can see how that could be very irritating and frustrating, because you could be somebody with type 4 hair or 4C hair and looking for somebody with your hair texture, and you type in your hair texture, there's girls with actually like loose hair that are not in the type 4 range, and it's just like, what are you doing? You don't belong in this category. You are not in this category. You don't have super tight curly hair.
And so then in our little flow chart of the rise and fall, we get to right after the climax of everything, when people start getting really concerned about this little thing I like to call the natural hair police. I think whenever it comes to the natural hair police, it's this phenomenon that kind of came out of nowhere, but honestly I feel like we should have seen it coming. Like, we should have expected this, considering that we were on such a high and we were doing so well for so long. The natural hair police came and ruined everything basically, because I feel like these people were so concerned about what you could and could not do with your hair, whether you were the hair type that you were saying that you were, or whether you were something different. Like, a lot of people on the internet were trying to tell you about your hair and they had never seen your hair in real life or put their hands in your head a day in their life. And so I think this is really frustrating for a lot of people, because it's like, how are you going to tell me about my hair when you've literally never had to deal with my hair? And so I think this is probably one of the first instances where people started being put off by the natural hair community. And I also started seeing that this is where some people started divesting a little bit from the natural hair community, because I think it just kind of got overplayed a little bit, especially the natural hair movement aspect of it, not necessarily being natural and being a part of the community, but just the movement in and of itself. It was played out, it started to become old, the trend was dying a little bit. And to add the natural hair police, or the natural hair Nazis as a lot of people like to call them, on top of that was just like the icing of this awful cake. Because honestly, I don't think anybody likes to be shamed for their hair, likes to be insinuated that their hair is bad hair, even after trying to create this relationship with their hair where they love it regardless of what it looks like, regardless of whether it's all styled up or if it's just in its shrunken state. I think there are a lot of people that started to hate for no apparent reason.
You know why I don't do my edges? Because they don't want to be done. If they wanted to be done, then they would slick with Eco Styler gel. But I have to look for cement to lay them down, and then they stay for 5 minutes. So clearly they don't want to do it, and I don't force people to do stuff they don't want to do.
And again, this is what turned a lot of people off, because they're embarking on this journey in order to try and love themselves or try to embrace their natural selves, and people are just talking crap about them. And then it just kept falling and falling and falling down from there. And then we get to about 2020 and 2021, where there are even more rules surrounding what we can and cannot do with our hair, what we should and should not do with our hair. And all of the things that we learned the past few years seem to be negligible, considering what these people are telling us we should do with it now. And I think this became really confusing for a lot of people. Not only confusing, but frustrating, and it seemed like it was too good to be true.
As I was saying, to me it just seemed that the vast majority of people are more interested in seeing the hair they wish they had rather than learning to care for the hair they actually have. Colorism walked so texturism could run. And this pursuit of an aesthetic that is farther away from blackness in the hair textures that are praised and paraded under a farce of inclusivity remains incomplete. We're still not quite there yet. Yes, we have progressed from only seeing black women rocking straight and relaxed hair, but it's pretty rare that I actually see women with hair like mine unless I'm out in the real world. Almost never do I see it being praised and paraded, not in ads, not on TV, not in movies, not on YouTube. After all, we saw what happened last year with that H&M ad with that little girl, right? I did a whole video on that, and I'll link it here in case you don't know what I'm talking about. And even when it comes to added hair with weave, you know, wigs, whatever, it is the same. I love a good hair hat to switch up my look or even just give myself the day off from styling. But it is hella rough trying to find weave that actually matches or resembles my hair. Just because I want to put my hair away doesn't mean that the hair that I'm putting on top shouldn't resemble my hair at all. Sometimes I want it to look like my hair while saving me the tangling and dryness that might come with rocking my natural hair out that day. But it's hard to find. Hard to find. Incredibly hard to find. And not being able to even find weave that looks like mine very easily comes down to supply and demand. Not too many of us out here even want it. Bottom line is, most of y'all ain't ready to decolonize y'all's lace fronts.
I don't believe that the natural hair community is serving the natural hair people of the world as positively as it once did. It has become a somewhat underrepresented, discriminatory, and toxic space currently, specifically on YouTube. And there are several reasons for this. The algorithm is at play here. A large part of the growing digital divide in this country is access to internet, and that usually affects Black and brown underprivileged communities that have a hair texture like yours. The second thing that I feel like can contribute but not always does is the brand influencer relationship. Sometimes I think it can be very beneficial. Other times I feel like it can be really, really detrimental. And yes, referring to the Mielle Organics Linda Lynn thing, I'm definitely on Linda Lynn's side. Mielle Organics was dead wrong, and that is just a bad look. The situation was handled very poorly, and for everybody to be running around to find out what's gonna happen next is also a problem. And the third reason I feel like the natural hair community has a belly flopped into the deep end is the fact that a lot of people re-embrace and re-stereotype the boxes that have preceded YouTube, preceded the internet, and reinforced a lot of the anti-Black propaganda that we were trying to erase in the first place. Now, I don't think that the people who started the movement are responsible for picking up the baton and running the whole race all the way throughout to the end. There's crops of YouTubers, and I feel like the crop of YouTubers that pass on the baton so that someone else can carry it and run with it hasn't exactly happened in the most positive of ways. At this point, I feel like there are some self-hatred hamster wheels lodged into the subconscious of your brain that is trying to get you to one-click purchase your kinks away, one-click purchase your Blackness away, so that you can keep somebody's bills paid.
One thing that drove me crazy, and has stopped driving me crazy, about the natural hair community as a whole. Like I was saying, it's not just the four girls. It's the 3 girls, it's the 2 girls, and there's even a who is it, like one C or something, like a little bit of a wave. Like, the definition obsession is crazy. I don't know. I have many theories, but I think what really got me riled up about it is that it was widespread across the entire natural hair community, and it's real difficult for the kinky girls to do that definition. So I was like mad twofold, like, why is this affecting all areas of this? Because us textured hair girls, I'm a girl, so I'm gonna speak on that, have been told most of our entire lives that our hair is wrong for being anything but straight. So when we were like, hey, my natural hair is not straight, it's just not. Now we have like this free reign and like free range to redefine what our hair in its most beautiful and kempt state is. And oh no, all the ills, all the ills came right on with us in. Oh, it was so sad.
Like,
which brings
everybody's on this train that the natural hair community failed. Like, we failed each other. And to a degree, I would absolutely agree. But I think for different reasons than people are talking about, right? So one thing I will say, because I was natural, I went natural in 2004, long before it was popular, right? I can tell you with all certainty, one way that the natural hair community succeeded was in making it a normal and regular thing to see curly and coily hair on women of color. And I mean, like, especially in the tighter spectrums, I mean, we really didn't see women wearing twist outs and braid outs, wash and goes. The reason why that was such a revelation on YouTube many years ago, that wasn't a thing. So in that way, the movement succeeded, right? At least in my mind, it very much succeeded. Let me put some stuff away. Now, another way it succeeded for me. I cannot express to you how few products there were on the market catered towards curly or coily hair prior to the natural hair movement. An aisle of products in store were all big brand, and none of them were geared towards us. I'm talking, we used to use Suave, and this is before the Pantene, the brown bottle version. Like, that came after I went natural, after the black people showed that there was a market for it. I'm talking Miss Jessie's and Kinky Curly and which one am I trying to think of? There's another one. Yellow Bottle. Who am I trying to think of? I can't think of it. Y'all tell me in the comments. Y'all know. Before all of that came along, we had very little. We were making products because we had to. We would from the grandmas and the grandmothers, mayonnaise was a thing that we always used. Like, all of the DIY. If you were a natural, that is what you turned to. And I only learned about it from hair forums, because let me tell you how my grandma, like, none of them, all they would do is straighten my hair. Like, that was the conversation, right? So the availability of product is something that the community succeeded at. Absolutely. No two ways about it. Can't tell me no different. One place that it glaringly failed is encouraging black women and women of color to really love and appreciate and want to wear, and that's the key component there, want to wear their natural hair. No, we failed.
You know, what I do consider like the height of like the natural hair movement, sort of like the mid 2010 cycle between 2014 and 2017, the natural hair movement really took off. We got a lot of natural hair events. We had several black women-owned natural hair companies come to get great prominence. But then they sell out to these larger corporate oligarchies like the Unilever, the L'Oreal, and then they pivot to selling courses. Just the way that this movement always becomes about what can be commodified and what black women can be sold to. And I do think that maybe we can acknowledge that as one of the successes of the natural hair movement is really defining black women as a very solid consumer base, though that was quickly manipulated, and rather than truly servicing our needs, quickly changing the messaging to tell us what we need to buy in order to achieve this aesthetic that is not naturally attainable.
Natural hair journey. I have to admit, I have to say it. I wasn't one of those people, okay, that stumbled upon a different hair texture of mine and used that as a basis to determine what I wanted my hair to be like or what I wanted my hair to look like. Again, I have to admit, I have to say that I do think that the fact that I was natural already, though I wasn't a conscious natural, I was natural already, made me more aware of how my hair would be. So I'm gonna hold a bit of space, okay? I'm gonna hold a bit of space for those women and men out there that transitioned from relaxer into natural. And they transitioned because they were influenced by, you know, what was happening, the movement that was happening on Tumblr. I liked a bit of Tumblr for, you know, the natural hair stuff. Tumblr, YouTube, they decided to transition because of that. And unfortunately, or fortunately, again, how it is in the hair, the natural hair community kind of mimics, I think, the way a lot of people stumbled into the natural hair community, which is the promotion of the looser hair textures. They stumbled into it seeing maybe looser hair textures and hoping and wishing, because it's been so long since they even seen their hair texture, that theirs would be very similar to that. I didn't have that. I didn't have a major disappointment. I didn't have months and months and months of indoctrinating myself with the regimens and the hair products and everything that these type 3 hair girls were using or type 2 hair girls were using, hoping and wishing that, okay, my relaxer is going to grow out and let's see how my hair is going to look. I didn't have that. So when I was doing research before I decided that, hey, I think I'm competent enough to take on this journey, the people that I was looking to were all people that I could recognize had the same hair texture as me.
It seems like, you know what? Everyone has hair, right? Everyone wants to take care of their hair. Everyone, or a lot of people for the most part, have put some type of chemical or heat to their hair, whether it be a relaxer, maybe it was coloring or hair dye, flat ironing, blow drying, all of these things. But there is a difference between having hair issues and having hair hate. Hair issues, you know, like, oh, I have split ends, or, oh, you know, I need to touch up my roots. Oh my God, my hair is so greasy, right? There's a difference between having hair issues and having hair hate. Actually hating your hair because the system tells you that you need to change your hair, that your hair is not beautiful, that you have bad hair, that you can't get a job with that hair, that that hair is ugly, you can't get married with that hair, you better do something to your hair, you going to school with your hair like that. All of that negative noise creates an actual hate, causes you to actually despise the way that God made you naturally. And this is what the movement is for. So let's not keep it real surface level to be like, oh, well, everyone has hair and everyone has done something to their hair that they just should just be natural. That's not the movement. That's not the point of the movement, okay? They need to start a different movement for disliking whatever, for flat ironing. I don't know. They need to start something over there. The natural hair movement was specifically started for women of color to go natural, to embrace your curls and your kinks and go
down below. I want to talk a little bit more about my personal experience in the natural hair community. Wash and goes. I started doing wash and goes maybe like 2 years ago. When everyone was at home, I had the most views on my channel, the most commentary, my engagement was super high when I started doing wash and goes. And one of the things I think that attracted people to my channel was my ability to actually define my coils, being a 4C hair girl. There are levels to this, okay? In the type 4 category, there kind of is this hierarchy. Whether you want to admit it or not, the numbers do not lie. If you're able to show any kind of curl pattern having a type 4 hair, you are automatically going to be a little bit higher on this hierarchy, right? And my hair can be defined. Thus, people enjoy watching my wash and go videos. But here's the thing, not everybody who has 4C hair can define their curls and coils. There's this misconception that if you cannot define your hair for whatever reason, you might have too much buildup, your hair must be incredibly dry, you're not using the right products, you don't have the right technique, whatever. Sometimes that is true, but the more that I did wash and goes, I got a little exhausted by the commentary, to be quite honest. The sea of comments that I would get if my hair was not perfectly defined, it bothered me. Not the comments themselves, but the idea that your hair just simply did not turn out right if you did not get maximum definition. And that's not the point of being natural to me. That's not the point of this movement. Actually, the point of this movement really should be a real wash and go, right? Hopping out of the shower and letting your hair just be, and not having 1,000,001 people talk about how it's not defined.
I was talking about all type of moisturizing gel, this is that. I have product in my hair, dude. Hair is very moisturized.
We really need to get away from the notion that dull hair is not moisturized. The reason why type 4 hair in particular, or curly hair, looks dull is because of the way the light reflects off of the strand of the hair. Hence why straighter hair always looks a little bit shinier, or a lot shinier. Overall, it's exhausting. I'm exhausted, okay? There are very many ways to do this natural hair thing.